Thanks for tuning in to another edition of Prime Sports NASCAR, Prime Sports Radio Network for this Tuesday. We are in February, and this is what, a leap year, CJ?
It is a leap year, yeah. So February 18th, 11 more days to go in February.
Okay. How was your Valentine's? You and your wife?
Oh, it was fantastic. Yeah, we basically spent it entertaining my son who was off from school that day. So very
all in the
romantic.
family. I like
Yes.
it. Okay, very charming. All right, so a big story, of course, Ryan Newman. What's the latest?
Latest is the same thing that everyone has heard. He remains hospitalized, but thankfully his injuries are severe and serious. He's in serious condition, but they are not life-threatening. So great relief after what was just a horrific accident. Just got hit in the worst possible angle. I honestly was not expecting this good news. And regardless of what it is, certainly he's going to have injuries without a doubt as a result of that. But thankfully, they're not life-threatening for him, so he'll be around to be able to tell some stories, I'm sure.
And it's possible this might be it for Ryan Newman's career. For all we know,
yeah,
he's not a spring chicken.
Yeah. No, he's not. Coming back to Roush, it was a good story seeing that team starting to take off. But yeah, you wonder. He's been critical of this in the past. So he's been up in the air before. Austin Dillon's been up in the air, and he's been critical about NASCAR and keeping them on the ground. So it's odd that, unfortunate, they had this situation happen last night. And yeah, we don't know what his injuries are. He's expected to make it through from everything that I've been able to discern, but you wonder if that's going to weigh on him and if that's going to affect him getting in the car going forward, if he's even able to.
Yeah, because Ryan, even though he's won this race before, the fact is he's had more issues. He's had the typical amount, if not more than, issues in plate racing, the old plate racing, and it was really kind of surprising to see that he looked strong this week leading up to the 500. I don't know if you took him. I know I took him, and Eric took him as part of our picks. So it wasn't really surprising to see him have a good day. And unfortunately, it just shows you how things can happen so quickly in a race like that at Daytona.
Yeah, literally leading, coming off of what was the last turn, and then it's kind of all men for themselves, and it was really no one's fault from what I saw. Everybody's coming to the line. I saw a lot of comments and a lot of people that were blowing up Ryan Blaney, but the fact of the matter was he was getting pushed. He didn't really have anywhere to go. Newman was blocking. They're all trying to win. That's the way it is. That's how these races are set up to finish. And how many races have we had in Daytona where the winner's been decided on the last lap pass with something crazy like that? It just so happened to be unfortunate that one of them happened to crash and then get collected heavily by the cars that were coming in later. But it's not like it's been unexpected. I mean, we've seen this kind of racing for how many years now, and yeah, so it is what it is. You had the big one earlier, you got that at the end. Just thank goodness everybody's okay.
Yeah, because
relatively speaking.
Yeah, because if this wasn't such a big moment as far as Ryan being sent to the hospital, it would just be another really exciting Daytona 500 finish.
Yeah.
Oh.
Absolutely.
Nobody would have been surprised the way Ryan Newman would have, say, wrecked. If it would just been a normal wreck. We see it all the time.
Yep, absolutely. I think everybody would have been jumping up and down. Everybody would have been saying what a great race it was. Had so many different leaders. It was another last lap pass. It was the second closest finish in history. If he had walked away right then, I think we'd have a very different perspective on the race. But they're going to take that car back. They're going to look at it. Obviously, the work that they've done with all the safety enhancements over the past years have been tremendous. That's why he was able to survive. And I'm sure as a result of this, they'll take a close look at that car, what worked, what didn't work, and how they can improve it in the future.
Yeah, look, I mean, I'd be shocked if they found something that didn't work.
True. Very true. After that, I mean, that was probably the worst case scenario you could ever have. I mean, Corey LaJoie came in right on driver's side, right about the window net, right where his head is. So, thank goodness they've made all those improvements to the sides, to the structure of the cars, the foam in the doors, the safer barrier. the seats and all the padding that's around those drivers' heads. You could see the whole thing was crushed in right on his head. So undoubtedly he's got injuries. They're going to take some time to recover. We'll see. Just thank goodness he's still breathing. Thank goodness he's still around
And
with us.
speaking of Blaney, even if after the race in the post race interview he would have said, "Yeah, you know what? I mean, I'm going for the 500 win. I was trying to do everything I could. I was trying to get him loose, whatever." I don't think any reasonably minded NASCAR fan would have had any problem with that. But Ryan didn't even say that. He said that he actually, at that point, was basically giving up. That where he was, he didn't. He was just going to push Ryan Newman to victory. It's just the way, again, the draft is. You just never know under those conditions, especially after he was pushed up by Denny. Look, it is what it is. But I don't think Ryan Blaney has anything to feel bad or sorry. He'll feel bad, we know that, but he doesn't have anything to explain. He doesn't have to explain anything to anybody. And I don't know about the way the race ended too. Do you think that it was one of those things where it just happened so fast and Ryan thought, I don't even know if he could have put it together that quickly, whether or not he was a veteran driver with about 10 more years of experience, whether or not he would have had more time to think about maybe moving up towards where Denny was to kind of interfere with Denny's oncoming run. I'm probably asking for too much because everything happened so fast. Because he did lose by only, you said the second closest race ever. But Denny Hamlin looked like he lucked out without a question in that situation. And I just don't know if Ryan Blaney could have done anything different.
I'm not sure he could have either. I think his line and all his momentum was up at the top side of the track. So once that got blocked and both he and Newman went down to the bottom, I think he's genuinely telling the truth. And that at that point, he basically had lost everything. He had nowhere else he could go. He didn't have enough space to be able to make a pass on Newman. So he just wanted to hook bumpers and make sure that it was a Ford that crossed the line first. And, had they not misconnected, I think that probably would have happened. But it's odd to see that the two closest finishes in Daytona 500, Denny Hamlin's the winner of both of them.
Yeah, Denny is. You talk about there's a fine line between skill and luck, and Denny's really had that in 2 out of these 3 Daytona 500 wins. You would think 1 out of the 2, but to get both of them in the fashion, especially this one, where you're in 3rd and you end up 1st, that doesn't happen very often. So I think the other thing, too, from a fan's perspective, look, I mean, unless you're a Denny Hamlin fan or you put money on Denny Hamlin, nobody wants to see somebody win 3 out of the 4 Daytona 500s.
No, and that's the reason I didn't pick him. I mean, he looked very strong throughout the week. The qualifying races, the Busch Clash, you knew the Gibbs Toyotas had speed. But it had been 25 years or something like that since somebody had won this race back-to-back. So I just didn't think that there was a good shot at him doing it. So much can happen in these 500 miles. That's why I didn't choose him. That's why I ended up going for his teammate Kyle Busch instead. But yeah, he's got number 1, he's good in the draft. Number 2, Joe Gibbs Toyotas are extremely strong. They were very strong again yesterday. And number 3, he's got a lot of luck on his side for sure.
Look, the next thing is Denny's got to win a championship. And
yes,
winning the Daytona 500 has nothing to do with winning a championship. But that's what Denny's got to do to complete his career. As far as Kyle, it sure looked like Kyle was in great position to win that race. And you got to figure he's probably having some kind of doubts in his mind now, because there have been some great drivers who have never won the 500. And he might be thinking, this might not be – this might be the one thing that's going to bug me the rest of my career, because it was just luck that the same thing. I mean, how many times do these cars bang in a race like this? And, it looked really like he was in perfect position to win that race.
Yeah, he was extremely strong. I think that had it come down to him and Denny Hamlin, I think Kyle Busch probably could have won. He definitely would have wanted it more. The Gibbs Toyota is extremely strong, and then when he was in the lead, Busch was in the lead, and then the engine starts to expire. He feels it going, pulls up to the side, and then drifts on back. And it was funny. They were saying if they thought it was a tire rub at first, or thought that he had reported a tire rub. There was way too much smoke for that to be a tire rub, and then to have it coming back as well after he had made the stop, switched tires, and gone back out again. I think luck was on his side a little bit that big one came out the lap after he ended up having his issues. So he was able to make a lap past a number of those drivers that were caught up in that wreck that weren't able to continue to pick up a couple more spots and some important points. But yeah, going into this weekend, he said he hopes he's got maybe 10 or 12 more Daytona 500s left in him. We're kind of looking at another Dale Sr. kind of thing where you've got a really great driver, very good on this track, nothing holding him back from winning other than luck, and things have got to fall his way, and they certainly didn't yesterday.
As far as Brad Keselowski, he was also in pretty good position. He had a good day. Things didn't work out for him. Once again, it happens. And because this is another reason why it's crazy that Denny Hamlin's won 3 out of 4, because Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski, here's guys that have not won the 500 before, and they had just as strong as a car as Denny Hamlin did, but no luck for them. Denny gets lucky, and he's already got 2 Daytona 500s.
Yeah, Brad Keselowski was another one that I thought was going to have a breakthrough, get his first win at the track. Very strong, led 30 laps. It was kind of an interesting day. I predicted last time we talked that it was going to be manufacturers teaming up with one another, and they certainly did. You wondered what was going on with Toyota in the beginning, but the Penske guys, when they got together, and the Fords looked exceptionally strong when they got out front. Chevrolet looked like they were very fast when they got all hooked together, and certainly the Toyotas look strong as well. Guys like Keselowski, guys like Kyle Busch that are still searching for their first. You get one shot at it a year, and it's a crazy race. You've got to survive and get to the end, and it might not ever happen for them. I mean, it's crazy to think, considering how good they are on both Talladega and Daytona. Is just this one particular race that they can't seem to get across the finish line.
And Ricky Stenhouse can't seem to avoid altercations a lot in these races.
No.
And he wound up getting, I guess, I don't know, some karma payback, whatever you want to call it, that knocked him out. But and we've seen Joey Logano, we've seen Jimmy Johnson have a lot of these same kind of issues. And yet they've won on these tracks, just like Ricky Stenhouse. So I don't know what it is, but some of these guys that have won on these types of tracks also seem to have a lot of issues when it comes to causing wrecks or getting involved. Maybe it's just part of them being victorious on these tracks and being good. Maybe they're overconfident. Maybe they're too aggressive.
Could be. I mean, offense is a good defense sometimes. I mean, we were going back and forth when it was happening. Stenhouse looked like he was going to cause about 20 wrecks within 5 laps, as aggressive as he was pushing, and his car was even squirrely as he got pushed. It was crazy to watch. And Joey Logano, I mean, we've watched his aggressiveness all week, and it got him the win in the qualifying race, but it took out him and all his teammates in a clash. And, certainly he was one of the ones that was caught up in one of the big wrecks yesterday too. So, there's something to say for going to the back like the Toyotas did at the beginning and staying out of trouble and picking up the track position as other people fall. And there's something else to say about being overly aggressive, making moves. I don't know, maybe that makes people think twice when they're racing around you, and maybe you get a little break here or there, but it also opens the door to a lot more opportunities for problems, of which both the most aggressive drivers we saw yesterday got involved in them.
Now, I know it's only Daytona, and that has nothing to do with 90% of the other tracks, but one of the drivers, one of your sleepers, had a good day, Chris Buescher. And the only thing I was a little bit, I'm not sure exactly what happened there at the end, because when, on the, what would we have, 3 restarts at the end? On the last one, I think it was the last one, Hamlin decided to let Hamlin and Buescher line up together. And but it didn't seem to work. Didn't seem like Buescher was able to hang with Newman, and that was surprising, because if Buescher would have been able to hang with Newman, that would have made life a lot easier for them.
Definitely would have. I don't know if he had a bad restart, if if he backed out in some for some reason, in the first couple of turns there in the short shoot. But you're right. If he would have been up there with Newman and Blaney, I don't think Hamlin would have stood a chance, because you've got three forwards that are racing very tightly, and they're essentially stablemates. They're not going to do anything to take each other out. So yeah, Busher was a little bit of a surprise in terms of where he was at the end. Part of it also was probably him backing off when he saw the trouble happening ahead of him coming off of the last turn as well. But you're right, he wasn't connected fully from that restart onward. And it was interesting. They said in the first overtime start that Hamlin had no choice but to split up the teammates. I don't know that that's true. I think I think the better move was the second restart when he allowed them to get together, because if you split up the two teammates, the one directly behind you is going to drop you the first chance he gets. Your better option is to stick with somebody who's not the teammate. You have a better chance of them sticking with you and pushing you to get ahead of the other two teammates. So I'm not sure why he necessarily did that in the first one. I disagree with the announcers and on them setting that up. But in the end, Busher wasn't able to stay with Newman anyway, so it really didn't matter.
All right, now let's talk, before we move on, to talk a little bit about Las Vegas this week, the Pennzoil 400, which we'll preview on Friday. I'll have Eric Smith on, and we'll get a complete breakdown of the race on a Friday. But let's talk about some big negatives which happened, which, of course, the biggest one, which was, and this is something we talk about all the time, every year, why do they have to start these races so late in the day? Especially in Florida, the later the day, the more chance for rain. If they start the race at 12 o'clock, maybe the race ends before any of the weather comes in. It's very possible that could have happened. That's one. Number two is this is 2020. Have you not come up with a better way to dry the tracks or keep them dry? We're sending somebody to the Mars in a few years, and you can't figure out how to keep a track dry. And it's not like these storms last hours. It's like a 15-minute rainstorm ends the day. It's just it's so frustrating. And then when they decide they're going to come back the next day, what do they say? Oh, we're going to do it again, but coming back at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It's a holiday. People had the day off. They had to sit there all day, some people with the day off, with nothing to watch. There was no competition.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on there. I think I've been a vocal opponent of them pushing back the start time of the Daytona 500. I don't like it finishing under the lights. I like it finishing during the day. You have less of a chance of the rain coming through. Exactly like you said, it's Florida. You're going to get an afternoon, early evening rain shower pretty much every day on clockwork. They were even saying that before the start on Sunday. So it was no
That's
surprise.
Annoying too, by the way. They're
yeah.
If you're going to show us the weather, then talk to us like we're real people. Don't talk to us like we're in kindergarten, because when you show us these maps and you see a tiny little blip of rain within 300 miles of the track, and then you see other rain like 600 miles from the track, you're like, oh, look at this. This is gonna be fine. And then like half hour later, it's raining.
Yep.
It's like, where did this come from? Get somebody on. Is it that difficult to come up with maybe a sponsorship for somebody that can tell us important weather details? And then they always jerk us around, too, with the delays. Oh, maybe we'll be back in a half hour. Maybe they're always trying to tease you like they did years ago when we were ignorant. We're not ignorant anymore. We have a million other ways to preoccupy ourselves or to kind of update ourselves on when these races are going to begin. It's you put on the race, this replay of last year's 500. They don't tell you anything. At least have a constant crawler underneath the thing that's constantly updating you on what's going on. And even when you put the internet on and you go to NASCAR.com, you get nothing updating you on what's happening.
Yeah, I was really disappointed with that. I share the exact same frustrations as you, and contrast that with the fact that because they decided to start it at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Monday, when you have such, number one, an exciting and serious finish where you need the updates, you need some kind of post race coverage. They cut it blank with nothing other than we hope Brian Newman's okay. Boom, gone. Flip to Fox Sports One,
Nothing.
nothing. They're showing college basketball. Switch to ESPN,
Oh, they're not going to do
nothing. They're
anything.
showing college
Yeah.
basketball. It was completely terrible. I mean, that is the one time you need some kind of post race coverage. If you need to break in over your news, ESPN News or something, just do something. Extend it another 8 minutes because they were 7 or 8 minutes over. They had to cut it right there. But like you said, they were more than happy to show 3 or 4 hours of coverage of last year's race without giving you information of what was happening on the track in terms of rain while you were waiting for it to restart. Yeah, it was crazy. Very
And
frustrating.
because and this is the other thing, you know, there's a lot of people who have DirecTV. A lot of people. They did not once update the channel guide to let you know there was a race on Monday. Not once. So
They didn't do it on cable either. They didn't do it on cable either. So
yeah,
don't feel left out. I have cable. They didn't update it. I was looking for it.
and
Couldn't find it.
then they had it scheduled. They were supposed to have their post race show on the Fox FS1, I guess it was. And it said on the guide that it was on at, I don't know, 8 o'clock, something like that. Now, now I just figured, okay, but maybe this is what they've done for at least FS1, that they're having a post race show, timing it right. But there wasn't any. I recorded it, and I'm
Nope.
watching some hockey biography. I figured, okay, let me fast forward
Yep.
through this,
Yeah, that's what was up.
and maybe I'll
Yes.
get to it when the Fox coverage stops, and then it'll move over to FS1. And 1 hour, nothing. And I didn't record past the 1 hour because I didn't
Yep.
feel like, I don't know if they had anything after that, but I didn't try recording after that because I didn't think I needed to. So I don't even know if they had any coverage on FS1 at all last night, but you're telling me I guess they didn't.
I did not see a single bit, and it was, it's the worst possible time when you're waiting for updates, you're waiting for any kind of information, good news or bad. It was a complete vacuum.
Okay, couple other quick things. The finish line. Another simple thing to do. Now, this is when they treat us like experts, okay? Because even as many times as I've seen a race, a NASCAR race, or even the Daytona 500, when things are going so fast, I need to have a little bit more, like, prep time to know where the finish line is, especially when you're not going to call it. Okay, I understand Ryan Newman was in a serious wreck, but again, I wasn't paying attention to that because I've seen these wrecks a million times. I just wasn't. My eyes was on, which it should be. I'm trying to find out who's going to win this race. But Joy and the rest of them must have been so preoccupied with Ryan Newman, they never even called the race until they never even knew what to call until 5 or 10 seconds after the race.
No, and it was interesting. My eyes were fixated on the crash, but I was desperate to know who won because you knew it was close, and um, even the scoring on the side of the screen didn't update
Yeah.
until they were 3/4, 4/4 lap all the way back around, and you see Hamlin pumping his fist in the car, but there's nothing that was called. Like nobody, the announcers didn't say it. They said that it was to a photo finish, but they didn't actually say who won. None of the timing strips on the side of the screens were updating. You had zero drivers up there. Honestly don't think it was until after Hamlin had gotten his lug nuts checked on pit road that I saw something pop up where it finally confirmed that at least Hamlin was at least initially slotted in first place over Blaney. And I missed it because I was watching the crash, and quite honestly, because of that, I don't even know if that finish was on TV, to be honest with you, because it happened so fast. Was watching the crash, nothing updated, had no idea. It took, a cool down lap to figure out who actually won.
And again, is it that difficult to on the screen to do it for horse racing? Is it that difficult? And somewhere in the corner of the screen on the last lap, I'm not asking it to be there the entire race. The last lap, put a little bit of a a graph there that shows you the little blips of the cars and where they are and where the finish line is. Is it that difficult to do that, just like they do in horse racing?
No, and you could even go so far as to take that, what, the first down line and the line of scrimmage line, and put those on the screen for the
Absolutely.
last lap too. Yeah, I mean that would have helped for sure. I probably would have caught that out of the corner of my eye, but as it was, I was focused on the crash, so didn't see it. Took another, I don't know, minute and a half for anything to pop up on the screen to know who won.
And I would have liked to have seen. Now I don't know how they would have. Or every driver has somebody there in their family that's watching. I would have. I don't know. I don't know what happened. I'm assuming, with knowing Ryan Newman was coming down, that they had a camera fixated on his booth. I just would have liked to have, even after the. Now I don't know because I didn't watch all of it because I was looking for a lot of other things, but I don't know whether or not they showed any reaction at all from their booth. I didn't see it, so I don't. They're constantly showing
No.
showing it in all other times, but I don't know. I kind of feel like maybe even after, it didn't have to be live, especially because it is a gruesome thing that could have happened to Ryan Newman. But I kind of just would have liked. It's sort of like what they do nowadays in college basketball. Remember the old days whenever they used to have the selection shows, and they used to always just blindly show like 10 different locations, and they had no idea whether they would get the bid or not. And if they didn't get the bid, they'd still show the team, and they'd be dejected, and then they show the guys that would be happy. I don't know if you've noticed, but over the last 5 or 6 years, they don't show the dejected team anymore. They don't even try to. When they show the teams, it's now only teams that are already expecting bids. It's like, well, why do we care about looking at guys' reactions that know that they're going? They already know. What kind of drama is that? I want to see the drama of the bubble teams, of the guys that are celebrating and the guys that are dejected. So I would have liked to have seen maybe some sort of booth replay after they checked it out first. Even okay, we don't want to show anything that's really too sad, but show something. I mean, where's Ryan Newman's family? You had to have had a camera on them. You had to have.
Yeah, I'm sure there was. They didn't show anything. The one thing I did see, and I'm sure you saw it as well, was Hamlin's team with Coach Gibbs and pit lane praying immediately after. I did see a lot of Newman's crew members running to the car as the safety vehicles got there as well. So yeah, I don't know why. You're right though. Throughout the rest of the race, they're more than happy to have cameras inside inside their little pit boxes. But yeah, for whatever reason, then they absolutely did not. And it could have been one of three guys. It was Blaney, Hamlin, or Newman at that point. So, and I'm sure they had a fourth person there as well. Get on Busher's boxes.
It just would be,
well,
yeah. I mean,
no,
come on,
they
we don't
didn't.
have to be protected by looking. I'm not trying to pry into somebody's life when some disaster is happening. That's not my point. That's why I said I don't even need to see it live.
Yep.
Maybe see what happened. If it didn't look like there's anything really bad, then you clear it through the producer, the director, whoever, and say, okay, let's now show you what happened as they saw it. I don't know, but I just this protection situation about we can't see people in negative moods. I just don't get that. All right, so let's talk about in the last couple of minutes we have here Vegas. Last year, Ford and Toyota seemed to dominate.
They did. In both races, we had drivers that led 80 plus laps. So just a handful of drivers coming out and really being competitive. In this race last year was Logano and Harvick on the Ford side. And then we had Logano again in the fall lead over 100 laps. So this is one of those tracks, and the 1.5 mile ovals are pretty much all like this, where if you get this set up right early in the weekend and you get off the truck fast, you qualify well, you don't make any stupid mistakes, you have the chance to be able to run away from the field. And that's exactly, I think, what we saw last year with both of these races.
Is this one of those tracks that that has a makeover as far as the cars are concerned? Any changes?
No changes from
Okay.
last year. I think this was one of the this was one of the races where I think if I remember correctly, at least the first one, where the new package seemed to help and enhance the
Yeah, there were a
racing a
lot
little
of
bit.
lead
I
changes.
seem
Yeah.
to remember. Yep, yep. And we had more people leading laps, but you still had a couple cars that came out and were dominant. Fall, maybe not so much. I think probably the weather played into that a little bit more. But you had the top 5 guys led at least 17 laps in this race last year. So it bodes well for competition and good racing at the front of the field for this weekend. And hopefully we don't get somebody that runs away
All
with
right.
it
And
completely.
how are you going? And how have you already? Recapped what took place in Daytona and how you're going to take a look this week at Las Vegas over at RotoWire.
Yep, I got my update, the NASCAR barometer, up at rotowire.com this morning. So taking a look at those drivers who are upgrades coming out of Daytona and those who are coming out of there as downgrades plus one surprise. Christopher Bell, I think he did very well. I'm looking forward to him and the rest of the rookies throughout the rest of the season. And then shortly after qualifying, we will have a fantasy preview up looking at a high-risk lineup as well as a lower-risk lineup, and all those are available on
Qualifying
rotowire.com.
Friday?
Yes, I believe it is on
Okay,
Friday.
so you'll have it out some late in the day on Friday then.
It'll be late in the day Friday, first thing Saturday
All right,
morning. Yep.
CJ, appreciate it. We'll talk to you again early next week as we recap the first of 3 straight West Coast races, correct?
You got
Excellent.
it. 3 on the West Coast and then on back to Atlanta.
Appreciate it, CJ. Talk to you next week.